If you think the scariest part of flying is just turbulence, you're wrong. The real dangers aren't the storms you see, they're the shortcuts you don't. Today, we're exposing the legal loopholes that allow planes to fly with broken parts, the shocking truth about how often pilots fly on almost zero sleep, and the terrifying reason why those cabin air filters are rarely changed. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you will know the 4 insider secrets your pilot is trained not to tell you, and why that seemingly cheap ticket might be the most expensive risk you ever take. Let's dive in. You step onto the jet, and you see that shining, flawless piece of engineering. You instinctively believe that before every flight, every single part on that massive machine is checked and perfectly functional. But that's the illusion. What the airlines don't want you to know is that they have a secret regulatory loophole called the Minimum Equipment List, or MEL. This isn't a checklist of things that must work. It's a list of things that can be broken or deferred for hours, days, or even weeks. It means your plane is often taking off legally with known failures. Think about that for a second. A plane can fly without, say, an auxiliary power unit, a coffee maker, or even an automatic flight control system fully engaged. While minor cosmetic flaws are one thing, the MEL often includes crucial items like backup landing lights, redundant navigation instruments, or certain hydraulic system components. The rule essentially states, if a problem doesn't directly and immediately ground the plane, it can wait. The real issue isn't the single broken part, but the fact that multiple deferred items can compound the risk in an emergency. When a technician finds a non-critical fault, the problem isn't fixed. It's simply documented and rescheduled for a later maintenance window, often hundreds of miles away. This process saves the airline massive money by avoiding delays and cancellations, but it introduces a domino effect of subtle dangers. Every subsequent crew member knows a part is broken, yet they rely on the redundancy, the backup system, to handle the workload. You're trusting your safety to a system that is already operating at a compromised capacity. This practice is the starkest example of where safety margins meet cost-saving measures in the aviation industry. The regulation itself is a necessary evil to keep air traffic moving, but the incentive structure is clear. Get the plane off the ground. If an aircraft has 2 working backup systems, the MEL might permit one to be faulty, saving the airline the expense of an immediate repair crew. The real danger lies in the crew's reliance on those backups, leaving them with zero margin for error if another unexpected failure occurs mid-flight. The MEL is, therefore, the hidden trade-off you make when you purchase a cheap ticket. You're betting that the built-in redundancies are enough to cover the known deferred failures. But the maintenance loopholes are only one side of the coin. Even a perfectly functioning plane relies entirely on the human judgment of the 2 people up front. What happens when those pilots are pushed past their physical limits and are making life-and-death decisions on less than 2 hours of sleep? That is the unspoken danger we need to talk about next. We just exposed how your plane is legally allowed to fly with broken components, but there's an even more volatile factor in the cockpit: human fatigue. Pilots are subject to extremely strict duty time limits, but those rules are often maximized by airlines to the absolute limit to save costs. This means the 2 people responsible for your life are frequently operating near the cognitive equivalent of being legally drunk. It's the silent killer in the cockpit, a danger far more unpredictable than mechanical failure. Consider the schedule. A pilot starts their day at 3 a.m. for a coast-to-coast flight, crosses multiple time zones and lands, only to be required to be back on duty 10 hours later. The human body simply cannot reset that quickly, turning the mandated rest period into a struggle with genuine insomnia. The FAA acknowledges this risk, but the industry often operates on a minimum rest standard rather than a maximum alertness standard. You're relying on a person fighting their own biology at 40,000 feet. Studies consistently show that after 17 consecutive hours awake, human performance degrades dramatically, leading to slower reaction times and critical judgment errors. This is where the terrifying concept of microsleeps comes in brief: involuntary moments of unconsciousness that last just seconds. For a pilot managing a complex approach or an unexpected emergency, a microsleep is the difference between a routine landing and a catastrophe. These incidents happen more frequently than you think. Pilots are encouraged to report fatigue, but the reality is a clear catch-22. Reporting it often leads to penalties, schedule disruptions, or internal disciplinary action, not support. This creates a culture of silence where pilots often lie about their rest hours to avoid career repercussions. So, while a formal fatigue risk management system may exist on paper, the financial pressure to press on means many crews decide to just tough it out. They take the risk so the flight takes off on time. The pilot fatigue crisis reveals a deeply systemic issue where cost dictates safety. You realize that your life is entrusted to people battling exhaustion and equipment fighting technical deferrals. But the dangers aren't limited to the people flying the plane or the parts that keep it in the air. What about the very air you're breathing inside that pressurized tube? The invisible contaminants that cycle through the cabin might be the most insidious danger of your entire flight, and it's one you can't see coming. You've accepted the risks of deferred maintenance and pilot fatigue, but what if the most insidious danger is the air itself? Airlines often boast about their HEPA filtration systems, assuring you the cabin air is cleaner than your office. The terrifying truth is that over 50% of the air you breathe during flight is known as bleed air, drawn directly from the jet engines. While intended to be safe, this air passes through the engine's compressor section, creating a constant, low-level risk of exposure to toxic chemical compounds. The critical risk is something the industry calls a fume event, when engine oil or hydraulic fluid leaks into the bleed air supply, aerosolizing toxic chemicals into the cabin. Symptoms can range from headaches and dizziness to severe neurological problems, impacting both passengers and crew. These events are often dismissed as isolated incidents or bad air conditioning, even though they represent a clear, documented failure of the engine's sealing system. Crew members are trained to manage passengers, not to treat chemical poisoning. While HEPA filters do scrub circulating air of viruses and dust, they do nothing to remove these harmful chemical vapors from the bleed air supply. Worse yet, the efficiency of the filters that handle the recycled cabin air is entirely dependent on the airline's maintenance schedule, which is often stretched to save thousands of dollars per aircraft annually. You are breathing a complex chemical mix through filters that may be long overdue for replacement. The cumulative effect of low-level exposure, particularly for frequent flyers and flight crews, is a major yet underreported health concern known as aerotoxic syndrome. Symptoms like chronic fatigue, memory loss, and breathing difficulties are often misdiagnosed years later. Since the contamination source is technically external to the aircraft's pressurized environment, airlines can easily deflect liability. You take off trusting modern ventilation, but you land having inhaled an untraceable chemical cocktail. Understanding the risks in the air you breathe adds a whole new dimension of anxiety to air travel. But even if the air quality were perfect, there's another hidden danger lurking in plain sight that millions of passengers touch every day. It's not just the people flying the plane or the air filling it, but the structural integrity of the seats and panels themselves. What happens when the passengers themselves become the source of the danger, threatening the entire flight with a shocking new reality? You worry about the engines and pilot fatigue, but you often forget that every flight carries a massive, volatile risk, the person sitting right next to you. The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, has seen a terrifying spike in unruly passenger incidents, many fueled by alcohol, masks disputes, or simply rage. These aren't just minor arguments. These are genuine safety threats, from physically assaulting flight attendants to attempting to breach the cockpit door. Airlines and crews are trained for technical emergencies, but dealing with an out-of-control passenger often turns the cabin into a literal danger zone. A flight attendant's primary job is safety, not security, leaving them highly vulnerable to physical attack. When a serious altercation occurs, the crew must divert their focus entirely from the plane's safety procedures to containment. That means the security of every person on board is suddenly compromised by one unpredictable individual. The fallout from these incidents is far more severe than a simple police report upon landing. A serious, disruptive event often forces the pilot to divert the aircraft to the nearest airport, wasting thousands of gallons of fuel and potentially landing in dangerous or unfamiliar conditions. Every diversion adds unplanned stress to the aircraft's systems and the entire crew's mental capacity. It shows how rapidly a non-technical problem can morph into a critical aviation risk. Unlike almost any other form of public transit, there is no escape from danger at cruising altitude. Once an incident starts, you are trapped in a metal tube with a volatile situation until the plane touches the ground. This confinement transforms an isolated argument into a shared threat. Passengers often have to step in because the crew is outnumbered and under-equipped to handle the escalating chaos, turning fellow travelers into reluctant and unprepared security personnel. We've covered mechanical deferrals, exhausted pilots, contaminated air, and violent passengers, a full spectrum of dangers the industry hides. But the greatest fear is often the most primal and the least discussed. What happens when the massive, heavy objects carrying you fail catastrophically and there is nowhere to go? The true unwritten protocol for a crash landing is the final, unspoken danger that changes everything you thought you knew about survival. You've learned about the human errors, the maintenance compromises, and the volatile air inside the cabin. But there is one unspoken danger that truly changes the calculation of risk, the chilling reality of a catastrophic event. We are constantly told that modern aircraft are designed to survive almost anything. Yet the entire cabin safety protocol is based on a terrifying, unwritten rule. Survival is not guaranteed, but a quick exit is the only chance you get. Every airline safety demonstration, from the seat belt to the oxygen mask, is designed around the 90-second rule. This is the strict regulatory standard that demands every passenger must be able to evacuate a fully loaded, compromised aircraft in pitch-black, smoke-filled chaos in 90 seconds or less. This rule means the crew doesn't focus on saving the plane. They focus on getting you out of it. Your life depends entirely on your memory of a safety briefing you likely ignored. Here is the part your pilot truly wishes you knew. Your chance of survival is statistically linked to where you sit. Experts call it the proximity principle. The closer you are to an exit, the higher your odds of escape. Studies show that passengers seated within 5 rows of an exit significantly increase their survival chances during a post-crash evacuation. Yet, most people instinctively choose seats for comfort or convenience, unknowingly trading a small safety margin for extra legroom. When a plane hits the ground hard, the flight attendant's brace position is meant to absorb the impact, minimizing flailing limbs and maximizing your chances of remaining conscious. However, the true shocker is the cabin structure itself. Emergency services are trained that the area around the wings and the fuel tanks is often the hidden impact zone with the highest risk of fire. You are placing your faith in the integrity of a structure designed for repeated stress, not sudden, traumatic impact. The unspoken dangers of air travel are not just theoretical. They are integrated into every phase of your journey, from the maintenance log to your row number. Understanding the MAL, the fatigue risk, the toxic air, and the harsh reality of the 90-second evacuation isn't meant to instill panic. It's meant to give you power. You are now one of the few who knows the true, costly price of a ticket. The biggest danger is not knowing. Now that you know, the choice is yours. So now you know the unspoken truth. The risk isn't just turbulence. It's the daily trade-offs the industry makes. The biggest danger isn't flying, it's flying uninformed. If this video opened your eyes to the unspoken dangers or maybe made you question your next booking, let me know. Hit the like button right now to support honest content like this. Drop a comment below and tell me, which of these 5 secrets worries you the most? Was it the broken parts, the tired pilots, or the 90-second rule? I read every single comment. And finally, if you want to keep exposing the secrets and understanding the systems the world tries to hide, don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss a deep dive into the hidden truths. Thanks for watching, and stay safe out there.